Chapter 1. I landed with slightly bent knees, glad to see I was finally getting the hang of this. Dusting off the sand, I sighed, relieved to be out of that desert. If I never had to see endless miles of sand again, I would be a happy soul. I looked up at the only source of light, a large white dome in the center of the ceiling, casting a shadowy light on the circular room. It was a stark contrast to where I had been, making me shiver at the slightly eerie feel. It was no wonder I never spent much time here in this eternal night. I searched for Longfeather and found him standing beside his basin of water, which served as a window to the outside world. Longfeather commented, "You had a rough one." Sending him a look, I replied, "You did drop me in the middle of the desert miles from my assignment without a drop of water." He shrugged. "Transporting people is not a perfect art form, you know that." I didn't respond since I knew he was not remorseful about it. I looked at him and noted how normal he seemed. Sure, he wore robes instead of modern-day clothes, but at first glance, he didn't seem the I see and know all type. Then again, on closer inspection, you couldn't overlook his deep, otherworldly eyes. They made you feel like your very soul had been laid bare for all the world to see. It still made me shiver after being around him for nearly 10 years. Shaking out the last of the sand from my clothes onto the perfectly clean stone floor, I walked up to him. "Can I see her?" He frowned, but nodded. "Yes." He waved his hand over the water, moving it into small ripples until an image formed. I smiled. My sister was carrying on a lively conversation with 2 other girls around her age. She showed no signs of the rare illness that had nearly claimed her life years ago. "There's no chance it will come back." Longfeather shook his head. "Not as long as I live. That was the bargain." With a sad smile, I continued watching them laugh and talk with animated expressions. What would they say if they saw me now? I was a far cry from the 17-year-old girl who had disappeared 8 years ago. Instead of toting around my current book, I was carrying a bow and arrows, along with a few traveling necessities in a satchel. I didn't have a single thing from home, just the distant memories. "Hello?" Jarred out of my thoughts, I snapped. "What?" He eyed me suspiciously. "I have the next planet picked out. It is very similar to yours, but not as enlightened." With a skeptical tone, I asked, "What does that mean?" "It is of the horse-drawn carriage variety." I rolled my eyes. Great. Is this a just-discovered electricity kind of place, or a King Arthur still rules the land type? He smiled. "More of a bow and arrows time frame. You will fit right in." I scoffed. "Who needs help this time?" He waved his hand over the water, bringing a new image into view. 5 men on horseback rode in a line down a dirt road through the woods. The first, a tall, broad-shouldered man with dark, sun-tanned skin. Next, a tall but lean man with light brown hair and an alert expression followed. Third was a short, muscular man with dark hair who seemed to be expecting trouble. Following him, a young man who looked to be a slimmer and much more relaxed version rode with an almost carefree expression. Lastly, a dark-haired, green-eyed rider who seemed to be tenser than the others brought up the end of the line. From the looks of them, I had already missed some of the excitement, but then I was never called when things were going smoothly. Longfeather said, "The ruler of Karp has gone missing, and as a result, things are quickly falling apart. I need you to keep Prince Alton here alive. There are many trials ahead for his people, and they will need him in the days to come. Find Theon, if you can."